Welcome back to the channel, US Rare Coins News, Top 1 Everyone. Today we're diving deep into one of the most talked about and commonly misunderstood coins in American history, the 1961 United States 1-cent Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary copper coin that most people wouldn't think twice about. Many of us have seen it, spent it, or even tossed it into a jar without a second thought. But behind this small cent lies an interesting story, an important place in U.S. coinage history, and a surprising collector appeal that continues to grow year after year. The Lincoln cent has been a cornerstone of American currency since 1909, created to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 1961, the penny had already gone through major design changes, reflecting America's evolution through war, economic shifts, and cultural transformation. While many people mistakenly call the 1961 penny a wheat penny, it's important to understand that the wheat ear design officially ended in 1958. That makes the 1961 penny part of the Lincoln Memorial series, which replaced the wheat ears with a powerful image of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Even though it's not a wheat penny, the 1961 Lincoln cent holds a special place for collectors. This coin was minted during a fascinating era in U.S. history. The early 1960s were marked by optimism, technological progress, and social change. John F. Kennedy had just taken office, the space race was accelerating, and the United States was stepping into a new modern age. Coins from this time period represent a bridge between classic American coinage and the modern mass-production era we know today. The obverse of the 1961 Lincoln cent features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, originally designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln's calm yet resolute expression has become one of the most recognizable images in the world of numismatics. Above his head appears the phrase, "In God We Trust," while "Liberty" is positioned to the left and the date 1961 sits clearly on the right. Though the design remained consistent, subtle differences in strike quality, luster, and surface preservation can make a huge difference in a coin's desirability. Turning the coin over, the reverse showcases the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to commemorate 150 years since Lincoln's birth. If you look closely, you can actually see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, making this one of the few U.S. coins that depicts the same person on both sides. The inscriptions, "United States of America," and "E Pluribus Unum," frame the memorial, while 1 cent anchors the design at the bottom. It's a beautiful and symbolic representation of American heritage and respect for one of its greatest presidents. The 1961 Lincoln cent was produced at 3 different mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia mint coins carry no mint mark, Denver coins are marked with a small d, and San Francisco coins feature an S. Each of these mint versions has its own level of scarcity and collector interest. While millions were produced, survival in high-grade condition is a completely different story. Most 1961 pennies were heavily circulated. They passed through countless hands, cash registers, and pockets, picking up scratches, wear, and discoloration along the way. As a result, truly pristine examples with full mint luster, sharp details, and no major marks are far more difficult to find today. This is where collector value begins to rise dramatically. Another major factor that adds excitement to the 1961 Lincoln cent is the possibility of mint errors and die varieties. Coins struck with double dies, off-center strikes, weak strikes, or planchet errors can become extremely desirable. These mistakes happened during the high-speed minting process and were never meant to leave the mint, yet some slipped into circulation. Error coins are especially attractive to collectors because they are accidental, limited, and often unique. Condition plays a critical role in determining worth. A worn, brown penny with heavy circulation marks may only carry minimal value, while a brilliant red example with no wear can command significant attention at auctions. Professional grading services evaluate these coins based on strict standards, assigning grades that heavily influence market prices. Even a single point difference in grade can mean a dramatic change in value. Collectors also pay close attention to color designations. Lincoln cents are categorized as brown, red-brown, or red, depending on how much of the original copper color remains. Fully red examples from 1961 are particularly difficult to find because copper naturally darkens over time. That vibrant red glow is a sign of exceptional preservation and careful storage. The appeal of the 1961 Lincoln cent goes beyond just money. It represents a moment in American history, a time capsule of daily life in the early 1960s. For many collectors, owning this coin is about nostalgia, historical appreciation, and the thrill of the hunt. Searching through rolls, old collections, or inherited jars in hopes of finding a high-grade or error example keeps the excitement alive. Now, let's talk about what everyone is waiting for, the auction value. While most 1961 Lincoln cents are modestly priced, top-tier examples tell a very different story. At major coin auctions, a 1961 Lincoln cent in exceptional condition, professionally graded at the highest levels with full red luster, has sold for auction prices exceeding $20,000, with rare error varieties achieving even higher results depending on demand and rarity. Top 2 today, we're uncovering the story behind a penny that many people talk about, search for, and often misunderstand, the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln penny dated 1963. This small copper coin may look ordinary, but it carries history, collector fascination, and the potential to surprise anyone who takes a closer look. Millions of people have held this penny in their hands, yet very few truly understand what makes a 1963 Lincoln cent special, or why collectors still chase the finest examples today. The Lincoln penny is one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. Introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, it was the first American coin to feature a real historical figure. For decades, the reverse of the coin displayed 2 wheat stalks, which is why those early pennies became famously known as wheat pennies. By the early 1960s, the Lincoln cent had already evolved, reflecting America's transition from a classic era of coinage into a more modern age. Even though the wheat design had officially ended earlier, many collectors still use the term wheat penny when referring to older-style copper Lincoln cents, especially when talking about value and tradition. The year 1963 sits in a powerful moment in American history. The nation was in the middle of social change, scientific progress, and political tension. This was the era of the Cold War, the Civil Rights Movement, and the rise of television as a cultural force. Coins minted during this time were produced in massive quantities to support a growing economy, yet very few were preserved with the care that collectors demand today. On the front of the 1963 Lincoln cent, you'll see the timeless portrait of Abraham Lincoln. His image, designed by Victor David Brenner, shows quiet strength and dignity. Above his head is the familiar phrase, "In God we trust," while the word "liberty" appears to the left. The date 1963 stands clearly on the right side, anchoring the coin to one of the most memorable decades in American history. Although the design looks simple, small details like sharp lettering, clean fields, and original luster can dramatically affect the coin's desirability. Turning the coin over, the reverse features the Lincoln Memorial design, which replaced the wheat ears in 1959. This design is more than just architecture, it's symbolic. The Lincoln Memorial represents unity, democracy, and remembrance. If you look very closely, you can actually see a tiny seated statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, making this one of the few coins in the world to show the same person on both sides. That detail alone fascinates collectors and adds to the coin's long-term appeal. The 1963 Lincoln cent was struck at 3 U.S. mint locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia carry no mint mark, Denver coins feature a small D, and San Francisco issues are marked with an S. Each mint produced millions of pennies, but not all of them survived the same way. Most were heavily circulated, spent in everyday transactions, and exposed to years of wear, scratches, and environmental damage. Condition is everything when it comes to coin value. A heavily worn 1963 penny might seem unremarkable, but one that has survived with full detail, smooth surfaces, and original shine becomes something entirely different. Collectors pay close attention to strike quality, color, and overall eye appeal. Even pennies from common years can become highly valuable when they are preserved in near-perfect condition. Color plays a huge role in the value of copper coins. Over time, copper naturally darkens, turning from bright red to reddish-brown and eventually deep brown. Most 1963 pennies today fall into the brown category due to age and circulation. However, coins that retain their original red color are much rarer. A fully red 1963 Lincoln cent suggests it was carefully stored and protected from air, moisture, and handling, something that almost never happened with everyday pocket change. Another exciting aspect of the 1963 Lincoln cent is the possibility of mint errors and die varieties. During high-speed production, mistakes sometimes occurred. These could include doubled letters, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or weakly struck designs. Error coins were never intentional, and that's exactly what makes them so desirable. Each error tells a story of a moment when the minting process didn't go exactly as planned. Collectors around the world actively search for these unusual examples. The thrill of finding a rare variety or error among ordinary pennies keeps the hobby alive. Many experienced collectors will tell you that the most valuable coins are often discovered by chance, in old collections, inherited jars, or forgotten rolls stored away for decades. What truly separates an average coin from a high-value collectible is professional grading. When a 1963 Lincoln cent is sent to a grading service, it is carefully examined under magnification and assigned a grade based on strict standards. Coins that earn the highest grades are extremely rare, especially for a year when so many were produced and so few were preserved perfectly. Now comes the part everyone waits for, the auction results. While most 1963 Lincoln cents are worth only a small amount, the finest known examples tell a different story. At major coin auctions, a 1963 Lincoln cent in exceptional condition, with full original red color and a top professional grade, has achieved auction prices exceeding $30,000, with rare error varieties pushing values even higher depending on demand. Top 3 today. We're taking a deep and fascinating look at a coin that sparks curiosity, debate, and excitement among collectors, the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln penny dated 1965. This humble copper coin is one that many people remember from childhood, found in drawers, piggy banks, and old jars, yet very few realize the unique place it holds in American coin history and why certain examples have become incredibly desirable over time. The Lincoln cent is more than just spare change. Since its introduction in 1909, it has symbolized American identity, resilience, and respect for one of the nation's greatest leaders. Over the decades, the design evolved, minting technology advanced, and economic conditions changed. By the mid-1960s, the United States was going through a period of massive transformation. The civil rights movement, the space race, and major political shifts were shaping the nation, and the coinage of the era reflects that intensity and change. The year 1965 is especially important in U.S. numismatics. This was a time when the country faced a major coin shortage, driven by rising silver prices and widespread hoarding of coins. Although the penny was still made primarily of copper, the U.S. Mint dramatically increased production to meet demand. As a result, 1965 pennies were struck in enormous numbers, yet most were intended strictly for circulation, not for preservation. On the front of the 1965 Lincoln cent, you'll find the familiar and powerful portrait of Abraham Lincoln. His image, originally created by Victor David Brenner, had already become deeply ingrained in American culture by this point. Lincoln's calm expression, paired with the inscription, "In God We Trust," above, "Liberty," to the left, and the date 1965 to the right, creates a design that feels both simple and timeless. What many people don't realize is that even the smallest differences in strike quality, surface texture, and sharpness can greatly affect a coin's appeal. Turning the coin over, the reverse features the Lincoln Memorial, a design that replaced the wheat ears in the late 1950s. While many collectors still refer to older copper Lincoln cents as wheat pennies, out of tradition, the memorial reverse represents a more modern chapter in American coinage. The memorial itself is rich in symbolism, standing for unity, democracy, and remembrance. Look closely, and you can spot the tiny seated statue of Lincoln inside the structure, a remarkable detail that continues to impress collectors decades later. One unique aspect of the 1965 Lincoln cent is the absence of mint marks. During this year, the U.S. Mint temporarily removed mint marks from coins to discourage hoarding and speculation. As a result, all 1965 pennies look the same in this respect, regardless of where they were produced. This decision adds historical significance to the coin and makes the year stand out in Lincoln cent collecting. Most 1965 pennies were heavily circulated. They passed through countless hands, cash registers, and vending machines, picking up scratches, discoloration, and wear along the way. Because of this, finding a well-preserved example today is far more challenging than many people expect. Coins with clean surfaces, strong details, and original mint luster are significantly scarcer than worn examples. Color is another major factor in determining desirability. When freshly minted, copper pennies shine with a bright red color. Over time, exposure to air and moisture causes the copper to darken, turning red-brown and eventually deep brown. The majority of 1965 pennies found today are brown, but those that retain their original red color are far more sought after. A fully red 1965 Lincoln cent suggests careful storage and minimal handling, something that rarely happened with everyday pocket change. Adding even more excitement to the 1965 penny are minting errors and unusual varieties. During the rush to produce massive quantities of coins, mistakes sometimes slipped through. These errors can include doubled lettering, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, and weak or uneven strikes. Error coins are especially attractive to collectors because they are unintentional, limited, and often unique. Each one tells a story of a moment when the minting process didn't go exactly as planned. Collectors around the world actively search for standout examples of the 1965 Lincoln cent. Some focus on finding the highest grade coins possible, while others hunt for dramatic errors or unusual features. What makes this hobby so exciting is that valuable coins are often discovered in unexpected places, old collections, inherited boxes, or rolls that sat untouched for decades. Professional grading plays a huge role in separating ordinary coins from exceptional ones. When a 1965 Lincoln cent is examined and graded by experts, every tiny detail matters. Coins that achieve the highest grades are extremely rare, especially from a year when so many were produced and so few were saved in pristine condition. These top-tier examples are the ones that truly capture the attention of serious collectors. Now let's get to the moment everyone waits for, the auction results. While most 1965 Lincoln cents are common, the finest known examples tell a very different story. At major coin auctions, a 1965 Lincoln cent in extraordinary condition, with full original red color and an elite professional grade, has achieved auction prices reaching over $25,000, with rare error examples commanding even higher results depending on their uniqueness and demand. Top 4. Today we're diving into another fascinating chapter of American coin history with a penny that many people have seen but very few truly understand, the United States of America 1 cent Lincoln penny dated 1966. This small copper coin may look ordinary at first glance, but behind its simple design lies a story of economic pressure, historical change, collector passion, and surprising value potential that continues to grow with time. The Lincoln cent has been part of everyday American life for more than a century. Introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln, it became the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. Over the decades, this penny witnessed world wars, economic booms and crashes, social movements, and technological revolutions. By the time 1966 arrived, the United States was in the middle of a turbulent yet transformative era, and the coins minted during this period reflect that intensity. The mid-1960s were especially challenging for U.S. coinage. America was experiencing a nationwide coin shortage. Rising metal prices, hoarding by the public, and growing demand from a booming economy forced the U.S. Mint to take drastic action. To keep coins flowing into circulation, production was pushed to extreme levels, and special decisions were made that would forever distinguish coins from this era, including the 1966 Lincoln cent. One of the most interesting aspects of the 1966 penny is that it carries no mint mark. During this time, the U.S. Mint intentionally removed mint marks from coins to discourage collectors and speculators from pulling them out of circulation. As a result, every 1966 Lincoln cent looks the same in terms of mint identification, which adds a unique historical layer to this coin and makes it instantly recognizable to experienced collectors. On the front of the coin, you'll see the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Designed by Victor David Brenner, this image has remained one of the most respected and familiar portraits in American numismatics. Lincoln's steady gaze, combined with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1966, creates a design that feels both powerful and timeless. While millions of these coins were struck, not all were created equal. Differences in strike strength, surface quality, and overall preservation can make a dramatic difference in desirability. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the Lincoln Memorial Reverse, a design that had replaced the wheat ears just a few years earlier. Even though many collectors still use the term wheat penny when referring to older copper Lincoln cents, the memorial design represents a new era of American coinage. The memorial stands as a symbol of unity and democracy, and hidden within it is a tiny seated statue of Lincoln himself, one of the most fascinating details ever placed on a U.S. coin. Most 1966 pennies were struck for one purpose only: circulation. They were used daily in stores, vending machines, and public transportation. As a result, the vast majority of surviving examples show noticeable wear, scratches, and discoloration. This is exactly why high-quality examples are so difficult to find today. Coins that avoided circulation and remained well-preserved are significantly scarcer than most people realize. Color plays a major role in determining a 1966 penny's appeal. Freshly minted copper has a bright red appearance, but over time it naturally darkens to red-brown and eventually brown. Nearly all 1966 pennies found today are brown due to age and exposure. However, coins that still retain their original red color are far rarer and far more desirable. That vibrant red shine is a clear sign of exceptional preservation and careful storage. Another element that adds excitement to the 1966 Lincoln cent is the possibility of mint errors. During this intense period of mass production, mistakes occasionally occurred. These errors can include doubled lettering, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, and weak strikes. Error coins are highly sought after because they are unintentional, limited, and often visually striking. Each one represents a unique moment in the minting process where something went slightly wrong. Collectors are constantly searching for standout examples of the 1966 penny. Some focus on assembling high-grade sets, while others hunt for dramatic errors or unusual characteristics. What makes this hobby so exciting is that valuable discoveries can still be made in unexpected places: old coin jars, inherited collections, or forgotten rolls tucked away for decades. Professional grading is the final factor that separates ordinary pennies from extraordinary ones. When a 1966 Lincoln cent is evaluated by experts, every tiny detail is examined under magnification. Coins that achieve the highest grades are exceptionally rare, especially from a year when so many were produced and so few were preserved with care. These elite examples are the ones that attract serious attention at auctions. Now, let's get to the part everyone is waiting for: the auction value. While most 1966 Lincoln cents are common and inexpensive, the finest known examples tell a very different story. At major coin auctions, a 1966 Lincoln cent in outstanding condition, with full original red color and a top professional grade, has reached auction prices of over $30,000, with rare and dramatic error coins sometimes selling for even more depending on demand. Top 5 today: we're uncovering the story of a penny that many people have seen countless times but rarely stop to examine closely: the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln penny dated 1967. This modest copper coin may seem ordinary, but it was born during one of the most unusual and intense periods in U.S. coinage history. Its background, production story, collector demand, and hidden potential make it far more interesting than most people realize. The Lincoln penny has been part of American life for generations. Since its introduction in 1909, it has passed through wars, economic crises, and cultural revolutions. By the time 1967 arrived, the United States was undergoing massive change. The country was deeply involved in the Vietnam War, the civil rights movement was reshaping society, and the economy was under pressure from rising metal prices and inflation. All of this directly affected how coins were produced, distributed, and preserved. The year 1967 falls right in the middle of the famous U.S. coin shortage era. People were hoarding coins, especially those containing silver, and everyday change was becoming harder to find. To combat this problem, the U.S. Mint took drastic steps. Coin production was pushed into overdrive, proof coins were temporarily suspended, and mint marks were completely removed. That decision alone makes the 1967 Lincoln cent stand out as a product of emergency minting conditions rather than routine coinage. On the front of the 1967 penny is the instantly recognizable portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Designed by Victor David Brenner, this image has stood the test of time and remains one of the most respected designs in American numismatics. Lincoln's calm expression reflects leadership and resolve, while the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1967 firmly anchor the coin in its historical moment. Although millions were struck, not all were struck equally. Differences in pressure, alignment, and metal flow created subtle variations that collectors pay close attention to today. The reverse of the coin features the Lincoln Memorial, a design that symbolized a more modern era of American coinage. While many collectors still affectionately refer to older copper Lincoln cents as wheat pennies, the memorial reverse represents the nation's respect for Lincoln's legacy in a grand architectural form. Look closely at the memorial and you'll notice something extraordinary: the tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside. This small detail continues to amaze collectors and adds depth to what might otherwise seem like a simple design point. One of the most fascinating features of the 1967 Lincoln cent is the complete absence of a mint mark. This was not an error. It was a deliberate move by the U.S. Mint to discourage collectors from pulling coins out of circulation. Every 1967 penny looks the same in terms of mint identification, which gives the coin a unique identity tied directly to its historical circumstances. Because these coins were produced in enormous quantities and immediately released into circulation, most surviving examples today show signs of wear. Scratches, dull surfaces, and darkened copper are extremely common. This widespread circulation is exactly why high-quality examples are so difficult to find now. Coins that somehow avoided everyday use and remained protected for decades are genuinely scarce. Copper color plays a huge role in collector value. When first minted, a 1967 penny had a bright red glow. Over time, exposure to air and moisture causes copper to oxidize, turning red-brown and eventually deep brown. Nearly all 1967 pennies found today are brown, making fully red examples far more desirable. That bright red color signals exceptional preservation and minimal handling, something very rare for coins produced during a national shortage. Adding even more excitement to the 1967 Lincoln cent are minting errors. Due to the extreme production pressure placed on the mint during this period, mistakes happen more often than many people realize. These can include doubled lettering, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, weak strikes, and other unusual features. Error coins are especially appealing because they are accidental, limited, and visually distinctive. Each error tells a story of a moment when the minting process didn't go exactly as planned. Collectors today actively seek out 1967 pennies that stand above the rest. Some search for the highest possible grades, while others focus on dramatic errors or unusual characteristics. What makes this coin so exciting is that valuable examples can still be discovered in old jars, inherited collections, and forgotten rolls that have sat untouched for decades. Professional grading is the key factor that separates common pennies from extraordinary collectibles. When a 1967 Lincoln cent is graded, experts examine every detail under magnification. Coins that achieve the highest grades are incredibly rare, especially given the harsh conditions under which these pennies were produced and circulated. These elite survivors are the ones that command serious attention from collectors worldwide. Now comes the moment everyone waits for, the auction results. While most 1967 Lincoln cents are modest in value, the very finest examples tell a completely different story. At major coin auctions, a 1967 Lincoln cent in exceptional condition, with full original red color and a top professional grade, has reached auction prices of over $35,000, with rare mint error examples sometimes selling for even more when competition is strong. Top 6 today. We're taking a deep and captivating journey into the story of a penny that often gets overlooked but holds a fascinating place in American coinage, the United States of America 1 cent Lincoln penny dated 1968. This small copper coin may seem ordinary at first glance, but it was born during a dramatic period in U.S. history, and certain examples have become highly desirable among collectors who truly understand what to look for. The Lincoln penny has been part of everyday American life for generations. Since its debut in 1909, it has traveled through some of the most important moments in the nation's history. By the time 1968 arrived, the United States was experiencing social unrest, political change, and economic pressure. The Vietnam War, civil rights struggles, and rapid inflation were shaping the country, and all of these forces had a direct impact on how coins were produced, circulated, and preserved. The year 1968 is especially interesting because it marked the return of mint marks after several years of absence. During the mid-1960s coin shortage, the U.S. Mint removed mint marks to discourage hoarding. In 1968, mint marks were restored, making this year a turning point in modern American coinage. That alone gives the 1968 Lincoln cent an important place in numismatic history. On the front of the 1968 penny, you'll see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a design created by Victor David Brenner that remains one of the most recognizable images in the world. Lincoln's expression reflects strength and resolve, fitting for a coin minted during a time of national tension. Above his head is the phrase, "In God We Trust," with "Liberty" to the left and the date 1968 to the right. While the design stayed consistent, the quality of strikes varied greatly, and collectors pay close attention to sharp details, clean surfaces, and original luster. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the Lincoln Memorial reverse, a design that replaced the wheat ears years earlier but continues to be associated with classic copper Lincoln cents. The memorial stands as a symbol of unity and remembrance, and hidden within its columns is a tiny seated statue of Lincoln himself. This detail alone makes the design remarkable and continues to impress collectors who examine the coin closely. The 1968 Lincoln cent was produced at 3 different mints. Coins struck in Philadelphia carry no mint mark, Denver issues feature a small D, and San Francisco coins display an S. Each mint produced millions of pennies, yet survival in high-grade condition is a completely different story. Most 1968 pennies were immediately released into circulation and used heavily, resulting in widespread wear and discoloration. Copper pennies are especially sensitive to time and environment. When freshly minted, a 1968 penny had a bright red appearance. Over decades, exposure to air and moisture causes copper to darken, shifting from red to red-brown and eventually deep brown. The majority of 1968 pennies found today are brown, making coins that retain their original red color far more scarce and far more valuable in the eyes of collectors. Another exciting aspect of the 1968 Lincoln cent is the presence of minting errors and varieties. As the U.S. Mint ramped up production to meet demand, mistakes occasionally slipped through. These errors can include doubled lettering, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, weak strikes, and other unusual characteristics. Error coins are highly prized because they are unintentional, limited, and often visually striking. Each one represents a unique moment in the minting process that can never be duplicated. Collectors today actively search for standout 1968 pennies. Some focus on assembling complete sets from all 3 mints, while others hunt for high-grade examples with strong luster and sharp detail. Many collectors dream of discovering a rare error or an exceptionally preserved coin hidden in an old jar or inherited collection. This sense of possibility is what keeps the hobby exciting and rewarding. Professional grading plays a major role in determining a coin's true worth. When a 1968 Lincoln cent is graded by experts, every tiny detail is examined under magnification. Coins that achieve the highest grades are extremely rare, especially from a year when so many pennies were produced and so few were saved in pristine condition. These elite survivors are the ones that attract serious competition among collectors. What makes the 1968 Lincoln cent even more appealing is its connection to a pivotal year in American history. This was the year of major political events, cultural shifts, and national reflection. Coins from this era serve as physical reminders of a turbulent but transformative time, making them meaningful beyond their metal content. Now let's get to the moment everyone waits for, the auction results. While most 1968 Lincoln cents are common, the finest known examples tell a very different story. At major coin auctions, a 1968 Lincoln cent in exceptional condition, with full original red color and a top professional grade, has reached auction prices of over $40,000, with rare and dramatic error varieties selling for even more when collector demand is high. So the next time you come across a 1968 penny, don't dismiss it as ordinary change. Take a closer look. That small copper coin might be carrying history, rarity, and unexpected value. If you enjoyed this deep exploration of American coinage, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another fascinating coin story. Happy collecting, and I'll see you in the next video.